I moved to the place where I live now about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and realized that Susan Kliewer was one of my neighbors. And I was so excited to meet her, mostly because I had seen her work and I thought, what an extraordinary gift this woman has. But once I met her, I was astonished. What was most striking to me about Susan was that she was so humble and filled with joy and encouraging everyone around her to try art. Even though you think you might not be an artist, she said, you can do it. And I believed her, and we came over here and had some classes with some other gals in the neighborhood, and she was so kind and so loving and so generous to us all. So once I met Susan, I realized what a gem she is, and I'm so proud to call her my friend. I nominated Susan because once I saw that the Mayor's Art Awards had a Lifetime Achievement category, I thought this woman who's been in Sedona for almost 50 years, I think, has got art everywhere you look in town, and she's been involved with the city and art in public places. She's taught people just by looking at her works of art. Her sculptures are so well researched, and she has an absolute gift for making things come alive. So when you're looking at a piece of Susan's artwork, you can be educated about the history of how that piece evolved in Native American culture just by being in front of that piece of art. Now, Susan's a wonderful artist as well with paint, but I think she's most well known for her artwork in the form of sculptures.
I've known Susan for decades, and I am completely thrilled that she is being honored by the city of Sedona for this Lifetime Achievement Award. And we are so lucky to have her talent and her skills and everything that she has brought. I love her dearly.
She opens her studio to us and opens her heart, and she's been a wonderful friend.
And her genuine personality comes through in all the ways that she works with her clay. When she's creating from the Navajo as a Native American, to see her work and to see the ability to get that piece of the history of the meaning in their lives into an actual form is so beautiful. And we've always loved her pieces. Um, she's done a lot of work with the Dene, and to say that she walks in beauty with the Dene is what I always feel when I'm with her.
You can see the love that she puts into her sculpturing. And like I said, the detail that I have never really noticed other artists doing that. So I appreciate Susan, and I'm just so thankful she's in the neighborhood.
I got the pleasure of meeting Susan about 5 years ago. She joined our game group, which we get together and just have laughs and enjoy life. And I didn't know her at all. I didn't know her art at all. And so I asked her, what she did, and she told me she was an artist and she created sculpture, and that she did the sculpture of Sedona Schnebly at the West Sedona Library. And I'm just in awe of people who are incredible artists. I've known many artists, but not of her caliber. So for me, it was meeting like a famous person, and yet she just turned out to just be a regular person, a really good, authentic, and genuine friend. And I just find her story so inspiring, and that she literally went into a man's world and became successful.
When I was interviewing Susan for this application process, she said something that struck me as wonderful. She said, I hope I live a long, long time because I have so much more to do. So Susan, I hope you live a long, long time and accomplish all your goals. And once again, thank you for all you've done for the community. Thank you for being my friend. And God bless you.
I am Susan Kliewer, and I moved to Sedona in '69, which makes 50 years. And it was a really small little town then, and I loved it. I lived in Southern California, grew up there, and my grandparents were ranchers in Orange County. So I always loved to paint. As a child, I painted a lot, and won poster contests in school, in grade school. Got to go to Laguna Art Festival and be in the child section of the art festival, and I won a blue ribbon, so that was encouraging. So moving to Sedona was such a treat after smoggy California. And one thing I did when I moved here, the first thing I did was sign up for an art class at the art center. And that I met all kinds of great ladies, and that really started me out on the right foot. So Sedona's been good to me, really has. But then, years later, I wanted a good job, and I knew there was a foundry here in town, and I knew it was art casting. It had something to do with art. So I went and applied for a job, and the owner had never hired women before. He didn't want anybody that wasn't a man. So anyway, he finally hired me. I went back 3 times, and he tried every excuse he could. There's only one bathroom, and I said, I don't care if the door locks, fine. So he finally said, well, we'll try you out for a month, and I ended up working there for 9 years. And he did hire some other women too. Found out women could do it just fine. He thought it was too heavy, but we learned to lift heavy things. And so I didn't really sculpt for a couple years, and a lot of the guys that worked there were all sculpture students from NAU, and they encouraged me to start making something. And they encouraged me to take a class at NAU, which I did 2 days a week, and it was anatomy for sculptors, and that was a big help, really big help. So the man that owned the foundry was really nice about letting us use the foundry for our own pieces and go ahead and cast our own bronzes. But we just had to pay for the materials. So that was a great start, because artists have a hard time coming up with the money for casting because it's expensive. A lot of our big name cowboy artists of America use the foundry, including local Joe Beeler and Johnny Hampton, who did live in Sedona once, but he lived in Scottsdale at the time. So I got to work on all these great artists' work. And they'd come in the wax room where I worked and tell me little tricks of the trade. It was a great education, and I didn't even know it. It was the best. And in fact, this sculpture stand is Joe Beeler's. His son gave it to me after Joe passed away, and it's just wonderful. And I feel like there's a little bit of Joe helping me. So all these things, we'd go to the Cowboy Artist Show every year in Phoenix and support our artists that we cast for at the foundry. And they all appreciated it and loved having us there at their tables. And so all that was a whole new world to me, and I loved it, because I always loved Western art, and that's what it was all about. And I had horses at home at that time, and so I can sculpt horses because I know every part of a horse from brushing them and cleaning them. So it all just fell into place. It really did. And my time, which I haven't talked about, being an Indian trader at Marble Canyon, that came into play too when I started sculpting, because I knew so many Navajo friends. My grandchildren are half Navajo, and they modeled for me, and it just is amazing how it all happened, because I knew all these great Navajo friends, and I also knew how to do the foundry part, and it all came together. So when I was still working at the foundry, I took a class from Ken Ottinger at the Sedona Art Center. I wanted to sculpt, but I didn't know how to start. I didn't know how to build the armature. So I thought this would be great. And it was at night, so I could still work during the day and take his class at night. So I did that maybe 3 or 4 years, I'm not sure. And it was great. It was in the pottery room. Everybody could leave their sculptures there, not have to take them back and forth. So anyway, after 4 years or so, Ken asked me to take over the class. He was tired of teaching. So I did. And then I taught there for 2 nights a week for 5 years. And then after that, I still would teach classes once in a while at the Art Center. And that's off and on for 15 years. When Sedona became a city, I was on the first Arts Commission. And that was interesting. I loved it. It was great. And then after that, I joined Art and Public Places Committee, and we really got a lot of things done. We placed many sculptures around town. So it was a good experience. I love public art, and I think it just really enhances our city. So I was on Art and Public Places Committee for 16 years. So Sedona Schnebly was a big event in my life. There was a competition that the Red Rocks Arts Council put on. I think about 8 people entered their maquettes. And I was so lucky because I won. So I did know Lisa Schnebly, granddaughter. And so she modeled for me in the dress I had and the shoes. And her family felt like she was a lot like her grandmother and looked a lot like her. And the Art Center let me use their art barn to sculpt her in, and it was a whole summer project. People come and go and watch me sculpt, and it was really fun because a lot of locals would come in and visit with me while I worked. And it was a really happy thing. A foundry from Santa Fe cast her and came down and made the mold right on the piece here in Sedona at the Art Center. And so there she stands in front of the library. When we unveiled it, I had all these notes to read when I gave my little speech afterwards. But Barry Goldwater was there also, but he got lost on the way, and it was dark when he got there, so I couldn't read any of my notes. And it was one of those times where you go, oh, I wish I could crawl under a rock. I can't talk. Anyway, it all turned out fine. I had relatives that came, and it was a fun thing. So, but Sedona's a big part of my life, really, and her story too. And I used to feel like I was a little bit like Sedona because I lived on the creek and I had kids playing in the creek all day, and I used to think about her and how her life was busy and just as much fun as mine. So anyway, that started me on my sculpture career, and that's really what I became known for. I still love to paint in my time off from sculpting, but I love sculpture because it's so tactile. And what you see is what you do. You don't have to make an illusion of things in the background or things up front. It's just what it is. And I guess I'm just that way. So it works for me. So to get to do a sculpture for the museum was a real honor. And it's a storytelling cowboy and 2 children listening to his stories. A piece called Changing Woman. It's a woman wrapped in a blanket. Then I've done the Sanawa piece. That was really researched. We had an anthropologist from the Museum of Northern Arizona, and he advised me on the clothing they wore and the jewelry and all that. Now I get to do a roundabout, and I'm excited about that. And it's Maria and Julian Martinez, who were potters, and they were a couple. And they did beautiful work together. They invented the black on black pottery that's so famous. A piece I just started, you can see it's really rough, no clothes on. I do the bodies first and then I put clothes on them. Then they look more like real people under the clothes. But it's a young woman, and she's bringing her rug to show Lorenzo Hubble, who was one of the pioneers in trading companies all across the reservation. And this is Lorenzo Hubble, and he's buying a blanket from this young woman who's holding the blanket, and it's going to drape down and come up this way. And he's going to have a cowboy hat, So you can see he's just bald right now. I have to make him some hair. I'm starting to put hair on her. But this is maybe a third way through. I still have a lot to do. But I'm excited about it. I'm always excited when I got a new idea and a new piece to work on. I think I might even show it to the Hubble Trading Post, because it might be something they'd like to have. I've always been an artist, always wanted to be an artist, and my dream has come true. And I'm so blessed and so lucky that I can do this.